Today I'm going to show you how to paint the Stormcloaks from Elder Scrolls Call to Arms, right after this. Hey everyone, Sam here from the Tabletop Hub, and today I'm going to show you how to achieve this exact look with only a handful of paints. So if you find the tutorial helpful, why not hit the subscribe button down below, as it does really help out the channel. I will equally start off by saying that I experimented with highlighting on these models. It's not something I'm very good at, and as such, it doesn't look very good with that bright blue edge highlighting. I'm not happy with the results here whatsoever when it comes to the highlighting. The rest of the model, yes, but it was a learning experience, and I'll tell you more about what I learned later in the video. So first off, I primed the Stormcloaks in matte black and then began painting the leather armour in Army Painter's Monster Brown. Now I don't know if you can call it a jerkin, I'm sure someone down in the comments will let me know, but we'll say that the jerkin is being painted with Army Painter's Monster Brown. Next I took some Army Painter's Deep Blue and painted all of the signature blue cloth that we'd see a Stormcloak wear. Then, taking some Army Painter's Ash Grey, I painted the fur trim around the bottom of the body armour, as well as the fur that we see at the Stormcloak's boots and gauntlets. Now, the Ash Grey looks a little bright, don't worry, we're going to bring that down quite a few shades when we do our weathering. Next, I took Army Painter's Leather Brown and applied that to all the straps on the main body, as well as the little travelling satchel that they wear, as well as the straps on the gauntlets and the straps and guard on the Stormcloak's legs. A lot of leather on these models. For the trousers, as well as any bows or quivers that the models may have, I used Army Painter's Oak Brown. Then on the helmet, the Skyrim guards have quite a very distinct yellowish tint. Now it's not brown, so I didn't want to use any of the colours I had already used, although you totally could use Monster Brown, and I think that would work if you don't have the paint I'm about to use at home. But for me, I applied some Army Painter's Desert Yellow here, and whenever I see the finished product, I think it really does work and captures very closely that slightly different tint that those helmets have. Next, I applied Army Painter's Uniform Grey to all of the metal areas of the model, so the helmet, the sword, and the chainmail. I equally applied this to my base, so these are the hard plastic models, and as such, they unfortunately don't come with the really nice, lovely resin scenic bases, so I wanted to create a really nice but realistic muddy base that would look fitting in the world of Skyrim. To do this, I got some of my homemade basing materials, which I can talk about in a future video if you would like, and applied it around the feet to hide any joins, and I applied the Uniform Grey here to the stone to colour it. Next, for the skin tones, I applied Citadel's Kislev Flesh, which is pretty much my go-to skin tone at the moment. Then I went back to the base to round it off by applying some Vallejo Texture Effect paint. Now this stuff is basically mud in a tub and I love it. It's been a while since I've used it in a tutorial, but for these bases I knew I wanted a dark dirt look to them. So this right here is the Dark Earth texture, which came out really nicely. Then we're on to the washing and weathering stage, which is my favourite bit really. It's where we really start to see the model coming together. So to begin with, I applied Citadel's Seraphim Sepia to the leather armour that we had painted Monster Brown to, just in order to add some definition, and then I added Reichland Flesh Shade to all of the areas of skin. Once that was done, it was on to the weathering, and I wanted the Stormcloaks to look like they'd been in the wilds for months, fighting back the Imperials, and recently I've fallen in love with using enamel washes. If you've watched any of my other tutorials recently, I just can't stop using this stuff. So I spray painted the models using AK Interactive's Dark Brown wash, and as you can see, it really darkens and dulls the paint scheme, which is why I wasn't too worried about Ash Grey being a little bit brighter. The way we then get some of the clarity back is by taking a brush with some white spirits on it and clearing away the areas we want to bring colour and definition back to. Now here's a side-by-side, a very rough side-by-side of me just spinning the models round, and this is the models before on the left and after on the right, clearing the wash away with white spirit. And I hope you can see the difference that it makes and the kind of very nice, very natural gradients that you get. Now at this point I should have left it. I had achieved a sort of grimdark kind of look to the Stormcloaks, but I wanted to push myself further and try and be adventurous with some edge highlighting after being spurred on by my wife. The thing is, I don't really like how it turned out. Yes, if I was better at highlighting and if I perhaps wet blended it or made more of a gradient, it would have been way better, but at the same time, my skill level just isn't there, and I'll only get there by carrying out experiments like this. Further to that though, I believe that with every miniature I paint, I'm beginning to figure out what my style is and the way that I want to paint my miniatures. And personally, I think I prefer a darker, more muted paint scheme that doesn't have a ton of highlighting, and that's okay. At the end of the day, the miniatures you play with on the table are your miniatures. you can paint them whatever way you like. These tutorials that I put together, they're really just here to inspire you to get out your paintbrush and have some fun. The tricky thing with Facebook and Reddit and all these lovely things that have such fantastic miniatures communities is that sometimes we can paint a miniature, we post a photo up on there just because we're excited to show it off, and what happens is that somebody just kind of shits all over it because we don't have competition golden demon level highlighting skills. Take your time, it's always a process, and just have fun. I did, however, highlight the metal areas with Army Painter's Plate Metal, and it came out really well and added a nice shine to the metallics, which I was happy with. We live and learn, I guess, but folks, that is how I painted my Stormcloaks. I hope you find it helpful. You can find a link to the written guide as well as links to all of the paints and materials I used in today's video down in the video description. But until next time, have a great week. I'll speak to you all soon.